Hello, and welcome to this next episode of The King Lincoln Show. I've been telling you the story of my shitty, tragic, but hopefully entertaining life. And we've just covered when I lived in a yoga ashram, when I lived in a Buddhist monastery, and then my really, really pathetic attempt to integrate back into normal life and make a proper life and career for myself, which didn't work at all, like most things I've tried to do. So, I left off telling you about how I had a really crappy job at a flower farm, and I had a really crappy place to live, little flat with a really crappy housemate, and my whole life was basically just shit. And I didn't seem to have the life skills or anything to turn it around. And I made the world's lamest attempt to get back into acting and theater, but it really didn't go well at all. So, yeah. Then I made the decision to just go back home to where I'm from and like stay with my folks for a bit, stay with my family or whatever. And I decided to go back to school to do a master's degree to do with like creative writing and stuff like that. And I thought I might also do like a PhD, like a doctorate. Um, yeah, I just wanted to do some further education to make my life less shit. That was that was my idea at least. So yeah, that's kind of where we're up to. So I was very apprehensive about going back home, while I really wanted to make my life less shit. So I put some feelers out, like I I texted my sisters to see, what's it like back there now? Who's living at home? Who's moved out? Like, is there lots of fights and conflict and stuff, or are things pretty chill, or what? Because our household wasn't like always the best to live in, as I've described earlier. Um, but yeah, so I went back, and I actually drove back. It was a really, really long way, but um, I had a car that I wanted to keep, but that's just added to my list of stupid decisions. But I just really wanted to leave. I kind of wanted to keep the car. And also, I didn't want to wait. Like, I couldn't be fucked waiting and like selling the car and then like getting a plane. So I just drove the car the whole way there. Um, yeah, another dumb decision because it was a piece of shit car that needed heaps of repairs and stuff. And it was a really long and boring drive. So anyway, I got back home. I saw like my parents, my family again, which is pretty weird. Hadn't seen them in like 3 or more years. Only spoken to them like a handful of times to tell them that I wasn't dead. And yeah. So then I went back to school. I went back to the same university that like the first one I ever went to. And I tried to do this master's degree. I forget the exact like name of the master's degree or whatever, but it was supposed to be in creative writing, basically. Um, but when you do something vague as fuck like creative writing or theater at like a regular university, they make you do a bunch of other stuff too. Like my first degree was like that too. They made us do all this like they call it cultural studies, but it's like social theories, like kind of like sociology type shit. All this shit about ideologies and discourses and blah, blah, blah. I don't really know what the proper name is, but yeah. So I tried to do this master's degree, but I was too fucked in the head. So by this time, I had done all this self inquiry and meditation and stuff. I didn't really have any like anxiety type shit anymore. In fact, I often felt like very like peaceful and blissful and stuff like that from all the kind of meditative practice. But something I didn't really probably didn't fully comprehend at the time was I was still kind of fucked up in the head in other interesting ways. So, and I was just very lacking in like practical thinking and just like general life and social skills. And I had all sorts of weird ideas. So I remember I had to write this essay. An essay, like basically the essay was like here's this story, like read the story and analyze what it's about and like tell us what it's about and shit. And I was like really obsessed with all this Buddhism stuff. So my interpretation of the story was attachment causes suffering. That's what I said the story was about. What it really was about like like when little kids have like a serious illness or a um like a terminal illness, and it's all the complexities of how the parents act and how the doctors and nurses and hospital staff act, and all stuff to do with that, like expectations of the parents and the doctors trying to talk to them and get them to be realistic and have the right attitude toward it and all that shit like that. But I read that and I'm just like, oh yeah, the whole problem is that they the attachment. They have these kids and they're all attached to and they're attached to like being alive and stuff. It's about attachment causes suffering. But that was just from all these months of like being obsessed with like Buddhism and meditation and shit. So when the lecturer or tutor, whatever you call them, saw my draft, she's like laughed out loud. She's like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I can see how you would say that." Um, I got an okay mark for it, but yeah, in hindsight, it was completely stupid. It was almost kind of nice for them to give me a decent mark for it. But I did all this stupid stuff, like I didn't want to use a computer, and I remember writing that essay totally by hand and then trying to like it's actually really hard to write something like a complicated thing like an essay by hand and then make changes to it and then like make another copy that's like, structured differently. It was a nightmare. But I just had these funny ideas about like not using computers and stuff. And I remember when I was trying to do that degree, I hadn't worked on a computer for like ages, except for a little bit for doing the yoga course. There was like a little bit of computer work for that, but really not much. It was just, like doing one sentence answers and doing multiple choice. It was very minimal. But I would be like in the university library, like trying to work on something, and I just sit at the computer for like 10 minutes and then I'd just jump up and I'd just be like squinting my eyes and blinking my eyes, being like, oh, this just feels so horrible. Like, I can't do this. I was like squirming and shit. I'm like, oh, I can't sit here. I can't stare at this screen. Like, I felt like I was going crazy from trying to do that. I just couldn't do it. And I don't really know why, but there was still just something fucked about me. Everyone was just, sitting there for hours, staring at the screen, doing their work. And I would like jump up every 10 minutes and be like blinking and like writhing around and being like, I can't do this. There was just something fucking wrong with me. I'm just retarded. And I did write one or two good stories when I was there. I remember this one that I wrote. Um, it's kind of hard to explain, but it was probably like pretty autobiographical or semi-autobiographical. It's about some kind of crazy guy who like goes to jail and stuff. I kind of forget exactly what it was about. It was kind of remind me of something like The Outsider by Albert Camus or however you say his name. It's kind of that kind of vibe. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good story. And maybe one or two others. Not that much, but yeah. Um And the teacher or the tutor who, like, took the class that I wrote that story, for, he thought it was really good, and he's like, "Oh, wow, this is, like, really Kafkaesque and stuff like that, like, you know Kafka?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't know Kafka. I know he wrote some story about someone turning into a cockroach, but I never actually read anything of his. So I just played along, but yeah. Something I learned also about university is, like, in a lot of ways or for a lot of things, it's a stupid way to learn because we did this whole, like, I don't know if it was a semester or like a term. We did this whole term, like this whole block of study, and we only wrote like one story and we're supposed to be like perfecting it the whole time. But once you've finished the story, like at a certain point, you just get to a point you're like, the story's fucking done. Like there's nothing else to do. And then we had to do all this irrelevant shit, like reading all these other stories. And I hated a lot of the stories. I'm like, this is fucking shit. I don't want to read this. I don't want to think about this. And this is not what I want to write. So why am I doing this shit? Um, so yeah, we had to like read other stories and write about it. And I had to hear other people's work, other people read out their work and stuff, and ugh, I just hated it so much. And yeah, a better way to learn. Say if you want to learn to write, like you really want to learn creative writing, like you should just pick exactly the kind of thing you want to write, like the format and the style and the topics and everything, and then just practice writing it. Like if you want to do, you know, a certain kind of short story or whatever, just write one and finish it, you know, finish it properly. Then do the next one, like do another one, do another one, do another one. Like do reps. Don't do one that you like, you know, you fiddle with for fucking a whole semester and then you turn in and someone says if it's good or not, like, and then read all these other people's stories and like write your notes about it. It's just a stupid way to learn. I mean, I'm sure it's a valid way to learn for some things, but for a lot of things, just fucking stupid. A better way to learn something like writing is just reps. And I reckon it's the same for a lot of topics, really. Which is why a lot of people do a whole degree, then um they like go and try and get a job and they know fucking nothing about the job. They gotta start from zero again learning how to do anything. So yeah, university is kind of stupid. But anyway, I was really not enjoying the degree. I just thought it was fucking stupid. Like, and I really wasn't sure, like, did I want to do writing? Like, was I still even interested in this? And I remember, like, in one of the, like, creative writing classes, they asked everyone, like, what are your favorite books? And everyone said, like, fiction books and stuff. I couldn't even think of any fiction books. And I was like, my favorite books are The Zen Teachings of Huang Po, Eckhart Tolle, Ramana Maharshi, and Nisargadatta Maharaj. Like, those are my favorite, like, writings or whatever. And I was thinking about my answer, and I'm like, that's fucking stupid. Why am I doing like a fiction writing course if I don't even like fiction books? And this is my favorite shit. Like, it just didn't make any sense and it was very confusing. And I was looking back at the days where I just did like manual labor, like I just did physical work, like picking flowers and washing dishes and shit. And before I like had this kind of fucking psychological aneurysm where I'm like, oh, I've got to have some identity. I've got to be special. I've got to do acting, or I've got to be a writer, or I've got to do some special talented shit. And I was like lamenting that I lost that period of life where I didn't feel like I needed an identity or I didn't need to be special. Like I missed that so much. And yeah, the whole thing felt like kind of like living a lie or just like not being myself kind of thing. And yeah, I remember like the first time I even like when I tried to get back into acting, I made that like horrible, horrible, tragic attempt to do that at like, way too late a stage in life. When I did that, I hadn't even read, like I hadn't even been reading very much. Um, like I would read I Am That, but I just read like kind of like a chapter and then put it down. Um, and I just like read a bit of it every day. But I was trying to read like Shakespeare and stuff. And after you've done, well, this is how it was for me at least, like after you've done heaps of like meditation and like, you haven't done much like study and stuff, even like trying to read heaps of words, it's like it annoys your mind. It's like someone scratching on your mind and you're like, ugh, get this shit off of me. Like, it doesn't feel good, Because when you're meditating or like, doing self-inquiry during the day, you're doing everything you can to like quieten your mind, to like, you're just looking at what's there, but you're not adding to it. But then when you're reading and like writing and studying, um, it's the opposite of that. You're putting more and more things into your brain, into your mind, and like it doesn't feel good. And it kind of goes against the whole goal of all the meditation and shit that you were doing. So like it doesn't mean if you meditate and stuff and you have goals to do with that you can never do any cognitive work, but the two the two don't actually go that well together. Like if you're doing shitloads and shitloads of like highly cognitive work, you always have your brain full of something and it kind of makes like emptying your mind kind of harder. So think of like a monk, like a Buddhist monk or a Zen monk. They have these really simple lives, like they just meditate and do all these like simple daily tasks. That actually, I mean, it makes sense. That's the best lifestyle for being a meditative kind of person, which is why their lives are like that. So, yeah. It was very jarring trying to get back into that stuff. So, I did the first semester of their shitty master's degree. It was supposed to be 2 years, so that's 4 semesters. And when I got all my subjects for the second semester, I was just looking at it and like hardly any of it was just creative writing. It was all this other shit. And I was like, what even is this all this shit? And I was like, I'm not interested in any of this. Like, I don't want to do any of this. So I fucking quit. And yeah, I wasted my money. I wasted my time. I mean, the government helps us out, but we have to pay the money back eventually. And yeah, I'd wasted like so much of my life already, and I just wasted more time, and I just quit. So signing up for it was a dumb decision, and that led me to have to make another like shitty decision of doing something and then quitting. So yeah, I did my first degree, and then I didn't use it, so it became useless. I didn't build on it. I did part of the yoga studies like course, didn't finish it. I did a bunch of other stuff like that I, haven't gone into detail about, and I didn't, I've done more stuff since this, and I did part of this master's degree, and I just quit it. Like, it became my my pattern to like start stuff, like put a lot of effort into it, and then say, fuck this, and then just quit it. It's one of the worst qualities you can possibly have. And I have that quality like so badly. It's like so fucking terrible. So anyway, I quit this shitty course, and then I was just again like at a loose end, like really unsure what to do. And what I want to say is like being mentally ill and like having mental illness and like having mental struggles and stuff, or having any big like schism in your life, or like big like traumatic thing happen in your life or whatever, it totally changes you. And in my case, it also took up a lot of time. Like, it took up fucking years and years of just struggling with like mental illness shit. like just being crazy. By the time, like, there was no point where anyone said, "Oh, you're officially well now," or anything. Like, there was just an eventual point where I was like, okay, I don't really feel like super anxious or anything. So, most of the really bad shit has gone away and I've learned all this meditation shit and become like way more peaceful. So I guess I'm pretty much better now. I just kind of, informally kind of said it for myself, but that was about 6 or 7 years until I got to that point. So 6 or 7 years, like my formative years, when most people are like learning all their life skills, learning social skills, like building relationships and careers and like sorting themselves out and like getting educated and promoted and getting better jobs and um, saving up money, getting married, having families, like buying a house, all this type of shit that responsible people are doing or, typical people are doing. I didn't get to do any of that in those formative years. I was just busy being all fucked up and just being all like, "Nyeh, nyeh, how do I do anything?" And then just being just fucked in the head, like, and trying not to be fucked in the head. Like, that's all I was capable of doing for all those years. So I was way behind in life. And yeah, all that kind of brain development and life development never really got to happen. And that whole kind of foundation of adult life, I never really got to build it properly. And the other thing is, it's just really fucking confusing when you go through all these mental struggles and stuff, and then like it's all really horrible. You have so many painful and shitty experiences. But then even after you kind of come out the other side of it, it's so confusing because you don't know who you are after that. Like, about 6 or 7 years had passed. I didn't even know who I was anymore. Like, I'd just been struggling with mental illness. I'd just been struggling with anxiety and mental struggles. So it's like, it's just so confusing to even know what to do. It's like, what kind of person even am I now? Like, what am I even interested in? You know? Do I have the same interests or like different interests? I don't even know. Like, what kind of person am I? I don't have any friends or relationships anymore because, everyone got fucked off with me being all retarded. Either I lost contact with people or we just went on different paths or they actively didn't want to know me anymore because I became a crazy person and embarrassed myself. So I didn't really have any friends or relationships, um, not to speak of. I didn't really have many employable skills because, like, all those years were put toward things I didn't finish or just being crazy and not even being able to hold down a job, a menial job, And like, I used to be into acting and music and writing and theater and stuff like that. Was I even into that anymore? Like, I kind of tried to get back into it, but it didn't seem to be working, and I didn't even know if I liked it anymore. It was just so fucking confusing. And also, like, when you're, like from a teenager and 20 to your early and mid 20s and shit, you're usually learning about the world. Like, you learn what is and isn't a good idea, what does and doesn't make sense, like what's practical and impractical. You kind of work on your model of the world. I didn't really get to do any of that. So I was already, like at too advanced an age, but I didn't know anything, I was still a fucking idiot. I was kind of like still like a child or like a adolescent. Like, I'd missed all this development. And it's just so confusing. Like, you don't know what to do. And it's like I seemed like I've kind of described, you can see how I was kind of trying to go back to the past. Um I was kind of trying to like, okay, this is over now. How do I pick up where I left off? How do I rewind to like back to how it was. But everything had changed. I'd changed, how my mind worked had changed, the whole situation had changed, like any like social realities and stuff had changed, like, people I knew and stuff. Everything had changed. So I couldn't just go back to the past. I couldn't just rewind things or pick up where I left off. I just couldn't. Like everything was different. I was different and the situation was different. Like those days had passed. And it was really hard to understand that. And it was also really hard to accept that. And it was extremely hard to know what to do next. I had no fucking clue what to do next. I kept trying shit and it just kept not working. Like nothing would stick. Everything just was just so confusing. So yeah, it's like even after you come out the other side of like mental illness or mental struggles or some kind of big trauma or something, when you come out the other side of it, it's like you still have to pick up the pieces of your broken, fucked up life and try to make something out of it. And that can be just as hard or almost as hard. Like, it's not like, you're better and then everything's fine. Like, all the aftermath of it, you still have to deal with that. And, yeah, it's just really difficult and it's like really confusing. Because I didn't even know who I was anymore. I'm like, what even kind of person am I? Like, it's just so disorienting. And it really was like a big schism in my life. Like, there was the pre-breakdown Lincoln, and then there was the post-breakdown Lincoln, and it was like they were different people. Like the pre-anxiety and post-anxiety, like Lincoln, like just operated totally differently. I didn't even really recognize myself. I didn't even really recognize my mind anymore. Like a lot of people, their lives make sense. It's like they go to school and they get really into something. Like, imagine me if I just got really into like writing and like fiction writing and writing stories. My life would have a proper through line, wouldn't it? And I know not everyone has this. Like, it's not like I'm the only one that doesn't have this, but imagine I never went overseas. I never had this nervous breakdown. I never suffered all this anxiety and all these mental problems and eating disorder and all this stuff. Imagine if none of that happened. I would have just gone to school. Then I would have been like, man, I'm really into writing and like fiction and writing stories and shit. Then I would have gone to uni and I would have done a degree to do with it. And I'd be like, oh yeah, this is so great. And then I would have probably gotten some like tangentially like related job, work like in some government department where you just do like paperwork or some shit, or work in a bookstore or a library, or some relaxing shit like that, some boring shit like that. And then in my free time I just like write stories and stuff. And then eventually, I would be some kind of writer guy. But yeah, like no matter what happened, my life would make sense. It'd be coherent and it would have a through line. And it'd have like, something I'd been doing like throughout like most of my life, and something I was building on step by step. And it would make sense. But my life didn't make sense. It was like I was doing all this shit, and then there was just this like schism, like this cutting point where everything just got like chopped off. And then there was just like a big cloud of craziness. And then eventually I found my way out of the haze. But it was like a tornado had hit or a hurricane had hit. And everyone I knew was dead. And my whole city or town was like decimated. And then I have to pick up the pieces and be like, what do I do now? Like, what do I make of this type thing? I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic, but that's really what it feels like. It's so fucking confusing and difficult. And it's like you have no basis for your decisions anymore because you don't even know really what your own personality is anymore. So anyway, yeah, it's very difficult to explain and describe, but it really fucking sucks, and yeah, it's super hard. So yeah, that was a bit of a rant. I hope that kind of made sense, and didn't sound like I was being melodramatic. But yeah, it's a really hard thing. So anyway, what I eventually settled upon was, well, the only thing I'm really interested in, and the only thing I'm even like remotely good at, is all this awareness stuff, all this meditation and self inquiry and philosophy stuff. It's like, uh, like kind of Buddhistic philosophy, non duality, self inquiry, meditation, investigating the mind, Eckhart Tolle, presence kind of stuff. It was the only thing I was really truly interested in, and like I had been obsessed with that for like a long time, trying to heal my mind with it and figure myself out with it, and it was one of the the main thing that really made a difference. And yeah, out of necessity, I'd kind of become obsessed with that, and it was the only real interest I had left, and yeah, the only genuine interest, and it was the only thing I really knew about anymore, and the only thing I was like even remotely like good at or skilled at or even knowledgeable about, really. So I was trying to do the right thing. I was trying to make a good move, like, which we all obviously usually are. And I thought, well, this is the only thing I'm good at. It's the only thing I'm interested in genuinely. So I'm going to try to teach awareness. I'm going to try to teach this stuff and become basically like a meditation teacher of sorts. And that's what I tried to do next. And just like pretty much everything I've ever done in my whole adult life, it went really badly and didn't work. Um and it was, yeah, much harder than I anticipated. And also, I realized there's a huge difference between being a awareness, like non-duality guy, and running a business to do with that, trying to teach that and, you know, like market yourself and like do services or products and content, and like a business to do with it is totally different from the thing itself. And I hadn't really grasped that at all. And at this time, even though I was like kind of retarded in a lot of ways, like lacking life skills, lacking social skills, not thinking logically, not logically, but just like not practically, like not thinking practically. Um, yeah, even though I was kind of retarded in a lot of ways, I did have this crazy like level of presence oftentimes. It wasn't like I was claiming to be like enlightened or something, like spiritually enlightened or something. Wasn't like I was trying to be like a guru or anything, but it really was true that I'd gone from being like this super anxious person, like having these crazy problems with like anxiety and paranoia and like all this crazy stuff, like all this noise in my mind, to using like these various kinds of like awareness practices to calm my mind down and become really like calm and still and peaceful and stuff. And it wasn't like I was that always, like 24/7, but I was like that a lot. And I've described in previous episodes like uh some of the effects of that, like just being really present to the moment, feeling really like calm and peaceful, having times where you feel like a sense of euphoria and bliss, having a sense of like detachment from your kind of like your body and mind and your surroundings, having this feeling of being almost like a witnessing presence that's not involved, but that's kind of like watching things from outside. I could kind of go on and on trying to describe the effects of it, but I've done it in a previous episode at more length. But I really did have these effects, and they were pretty, I thought, pretty profound. And I still think, yeah, they're things that most people probably won't experience in their lifetime, especially not in any kind of sustained way. So I did kind of feel like, I had this story to share and I had something of value to offer with this kind of shit. So yeah, I tried to become like a meditation teacher type person. And yeah, that was what I tried next. So I started the world's shittiest, most sad, pathetic attempt to become self-employed or start some kind of business and become like a meditation teacher type person. So I started making YouTube videos and writing little like blog posts and stuff, writing little posts on social media and doing some content stuff. It was all completely terrible, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't realize how fucking difficult it is to even like get views on YouTube and shit. Unless it's really hard to get even views and attention online unless you have um like videos of kittens doing funny stuff or a hippo shitting itself or it's porn. Outside of that, it's like, man, it's a real effort to get attention towards like a proper content for a proper like topic. It's like a big often, years long project. So I would make like shitty YouTube videos that like no one watched, write shitty blog posts and like do shitty social media posts that no one looked at. And yeah, I had no idea about content or the internet. It was all terrible and none of it went anywhere. And then I also tried like doing stuff in real life and uh I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I came across this guy who um ran this kind of like just this little kind of studio thing that taught meditation and mindfulness. And uh I can't remember how he ran it, like if it was run off like donations or what, but he would just have people like me, people with some kind of knowledge or some level of expertise to share or whatever. And they just like run like little classes and workshops there and stuff. Um so yeah, I kind of like hooked up with him and um yeah, he got me like I think he got me doing a trial where just him and like one other person like watched me like do like a class. And for the class I kind of like just like told my whole story of having all the anxiety and stuff and then like learning about like awareness and kind of like fixing myself and then all the effects and benefits I was feeling now and like how my philosophy and viewpoint had changed and stuff and then kind of like going into like teaching people how to um do like the practices like that I knew how to do and stuff. um so yeah, I guess he did some kind of trial thing and then I would start like yeah, just running like a class on it every week. And the first one was pretty good, like cuz it was brand new, like no one had like been to it before or like heard about it or anything. So a whole bunch of people came, like um not sure how many people, maybe like 20 people in this small little like studio just sitting on like meditation cushions and shit. And I just like kind of, told the story and did like the workshop and stuff. And it was pretty like decent. It went kind of pretty okay. But then like I had as I kept doing it, I had a few where there'd be like a few people who would come, like two or three or four people. I had some where just like one person came and I had to like tell all this story and like have this huge talk just with one person there, and it was like really fucking awkward. And I remember this one old guy, like a whole bunch of times. There was just this one old guy who was the only guy who came, and I was like hell talking to him about like awareness and meditation and shit, and it was just so fucking stupid. And then a bunch of times just no one came. So I would just like go into the center. Uh I must have had it, yeah, I must have had like a key. So I'd like go in, like unlock, set everything up, like put cushions out, sit there, and just no one would come. And so I'd just be like eventually be like slumped on this cushion, just being like, ah fuck, what do I do? And yeah, it was just really lame. And then also one of my sisters worked as like a counselor or something, and she knew someone who did some kind of like classes and workshops, like ran some kind of breath work workshops at some other meditation like place. And yeah, she hooked me up with her, so I went and saw her at her house and like had to talk to her and stuff. And she told me like how I could organize a workshop there. And I went to see those people, and I convinced them to let me do this like workshop and stuff, and I um put an event on Facebook and everything. And yeah, I didn't end up doing the event. I can't actually 100% remember why. It was either because I think why it was because just no one fucking signed up for it. I think that's it. Like um yeah, I did all this stuff, like I had to buy some kind of insurance and like hire out like the center or some shit like that, and just like no one fucking signed up, or maybe like one person signed up or some shit. So I just cancelled it, which was really fucking sad and lame. It kind of burned the bridge with these people. But it might have been because like I was about to do it, but then I spoiler alert, gave up on the awareness teaching thing altogether. It might have been because of that, but I think it was just because like no one fucking wanted to come. So that was a total blowout. And then I I also I went to some meetups with like these kind of like self-development people. There was these two people who like were trying to start some kind of self-development company where they ran like events and workshops and stuff to do with like different topics of self-development, and they wanted people to, you know, like kind of like teach as part of their brand, or like, you know, kind of under their umbrella, and they were like recruiting different people. So I kind of tried to do a thing with them, and I went to a few of their meetups and I met them and stuff, and like they seemed like pretty nice. And then they got me to, at one of the meetups, like to test me out, they just got me to do a little talk like in front of the meetup. And so I did fine at that. And then they said, okay, well you can do like your own workshop thing. So yeah, I did this like awareness practice workshop thing. They booked like some kind of studio room thing for me, and I did it, and I think maybe about 5 people came, and they probably got charged like, I don't know, $10 or $20 or some shit. And I also filmed it. So I just set up a camera like in the corner and filmed it. And it didn't actually go too bad, but yeah, it actually went okay. It actually went okay. But I still didn't continue with this shit. So yeah. So basically what happened was I thought I had really achieved something with meditation. And I thought that I had like totally transformed and like changed myself around. And that I was now this like, not like some kind of guru or like enlightened being or some grandiose shit like that. But I thought like I had something to really like share, and I'd kind of, to a certain extent, figured something out or achieved something that most people in their lifetime like don't achieve or figure out or whatever. But the longer I just like stayed in, I guess, like modern society and normal life with all its different stresses and temptations and influences and whatnot, longer I stayed there, like the more just like those things got harder and they kind of started going away and shit. And then like going from just like sitting quietly in the corner and like meditating and shit to trying to do all this like workshop, like business shit and all this like content shit and marketing shit, it was making me kind of get worse at my own like practice type thing. Cause I really was like kind of hardcore with this stuff. I would just like, sometimes I would just sit for ages and just like stare at the wall, just like being aware, just like watching my mind. But when you got videos to put out and like trying to organize like meetups and like workshops and shit, like I said at the beginning, that's different, isn't it? Like doing the thing and being good at the thing and running a business to do with the thing, those are two completely fucking different things. And I really found that out the hard way. And I hated it. I hated all of it. Like I hated trying to make the videos and trying to get people in the house to be quiet while I recorded them. And then they'd like make a noise halfway through and I'd get so fucking angry and shit. And I started realizing I'm not this like crazy, like calm, wise, aware, like lucid, peaceful person. I'm just not. And I started having all these other struggles. Like, I started eating like junk food, like I talked about a bit before. I would like eat all this chocolate and stuff and like just all sorts of different junk. Like, I just like couldn't not do it. And I was like, fuck, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I fucking up? And then I'd eat it all and then I feel like shit. And then I get really like horny and then I'd like jack off. um, and I like sometimes I watch porn again and stuff, and like all this shit was like seeping into me, like weighing, like sinking down on me, and like I was losing all my like good shit that I had, like in the ashram and the monastery, and like in the time like immediately after that, and all my kind of like solitude and silence and awareness and stuff. It started kind of breaking down and like fucking up and going away. And as life progressed, I started realizing, you know what? I actually am still kind of retarded. Like, not really with anxiety, but I'm still a retarded, fucked up person. I have all these habits and weird shit that I'm doing, and like temptations and habits I can't control. I have all these bad behaviors I'm struggling with. How the fuck can I like teach people about like being aware and present and calm and shit? Like, how can I really like logically claim that I've figured anything out or achieved anything with this shit? Can I really even like claim that this shit works at all? And I started to think, yeah, no, I can't. And I think I was in a bit of denial about it for a while, but I was like, nah, this shit, like, the effects of this are real, but for me, it's like breaking down. Like, I'm not actually that good at it. So how can you teach something that you're not even very fucking good at? And it is like a delicate thing. I've come to realize now that really it's a delicate thing that you don't have control of. Like, I now see things as kind of deterministic. So like the environment influences you to a huge degree. Things that happen around you influence you to a huge degree, and you can't really control everything. And your mind and your brain, they're subject to change. They don't really just like get to a certain point and stay there. I think that's a fiction. I think they're constantly changing, and you don't know if in like a few months or a year you're gonna be really calm and like put together, or if you're gonna be like, all fucking addicted and frazzled and like fucked up. You don't actually really know, and ultimately you don't have any control over it. So yeah, I did some other things with it too. I had my own meetup group, which usually no one came to. Like, often it would just be like, I'd make the event online and try to promote it. And then when it came to the day, I'd go to the cafe or the library or the bookstore or wherever it was supposed to be, and it would just be me fucking pathetically, sadly sitting alone. But there were some times when people actually came, like there was this little kind of like spiritually bookshop place we used to meet, and I had some meetups where there was a bunch of people there, and I kind of like held court and like told them about like awareness and meditation shit. And I remember this one old lady. There was these two a lot of shit with me happens with old ladies. um Yeah, so often there'd be no one there. Sometimes there'd be one person there, and then they'd feel really awkward that they were the only person there, and they'd be like, make an excuse to leave after a while or whatever. But sometimes, a bunch of people came, and I remember there were these two old ladies who like came quite a lot, and there was this one stupid old lady who like I remember one time she said something about like, oh, people have different kinds of vibes, and like I remember I met this one woman, and I'm sensitive to like energy and vibes, and I was talking to her and I just felt like this sense of like love like emanating from her or something, and then I knew she was like a loving high vibrational person or something. And I kind of thought like that's probably bullshit. It's probably just that you're in different moods. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you get like different feelings around different people, but also you're just in different moods when you're around like different people at different times. So I was just trying to explain that, which is a very basic idea. And I said something like, maybe that's your own love you're feeling. And she, for some reason, she thought that was like incredibly profound, which it's not. It's just like you're attributing that feeling to the person in front of you. I'm suggesting maybe it's just an internal feeling that you happen to be having while that person is in front of you. How do you know it's coming like emanating off the person? Maybe it's just your mood at that time. But she thought that was so profound for some reason. And like she kept coming to the meetups like hoping I would say something like that again. I was like, that was just a random sentence. Like anyone would say that. That has nothing to do with the core of what I'm talking about. So she would like hang around being like, I know like deeper truths. I'm like waiting for you to like talk about them. I'm like, what is this fucking crazy bitch on about? And sometimes I would also teach about other stuff. Like I got really into something called nonviolent communication, NVC, which is like it's kind of like a way of communicating. It's all about like empathy and stuff. It's created by a guy called Marshall Rosenberg. So I would do some of the meetups about like that and other stuff. And she'd be like, I didn't like that one. I'm waiting for these like deeper truths. And she'd keep telling the story of the thing I said. And she's like, oh, I had like a massive breakthrough after that. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not even like that relevant to what I'm even on about. So that was the kind of person I got. I got some cool people like going there, coming there and stuff, but yeah. Um and so like when I was doing like my whole thing was being this kind of like really present, calm person. So especially whenever I did anything to do with that project of like teaching it and stuff, I would make sure I was like being like super present and super calm. But then sometimes in private, I was like just not like that. I was like scoffing down chocolate and being like, oh, why am I doing this? Fucking jacking off to porn, being like, oh, why am I doing this? uh, and I had other problems too. Like sometimes I'd try to work on stuff I was supposed to be working on, like when I had free time. And I would just do random stuff, like kind of like when I was in Europe. I would just like walk and walk. I wouldn't get lost and stuff and be all anxious, but I just like walk off, like to like just go walking, or I go driving. Like that was a much bigger thing. Like I would just go driving and then just like drive and drive pointlessly. And I just be like, what am I doing with my day? Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So I wasn't anxious and shit. I didn't have an eating disorder, but I was kind of, even with all this like calm and awareness and stuff, I was kind of fucking retarded, I have to admit. And there was this really embarrassing moment I had, which was like, so when I was doing all this like awareness meditation stuff, I guess I was trying to project the image of like this really calm, like present, wise person. But then in private, it was kind of like breaking down. And I went through a period of kind of being in denial about how it was breaking down. You know, I had the monastery and the good environments to help me, but it was different now. And, you know, I couldn't really make the claims and shit I was making. So I was kind of a bit in denial and like the shit was kind of getting worse. And like my life outside, like doing that awareness shit was kind of like crappy and like not good as well. So I was just like, for a long time, I was just staying with my folks, and I didn't really qualify for any good jobs or anything. So I would just have like, you know, dishwashing jobs, kitchen hand jobs and stuff. And one time was so embarrassing, like, um, I was working, like washing dishes. I had these rubber gloves on, and I was like carrying all these like dishes from, um, I guess I was carrying them like from the inside the kitchen to kind of like outside in the restaurant somewhere or the cafe somewhere. And I just heard this guy go like, Lincoln, and like in a really surprised voice. And it was one of those guys from the self-development like brand thing, you know, who I did the workshops with. And he was like really surprised and he was looking at me, and I can tell he was hell judging me because he knew me as this like really present, calm meditation guy. And it was all kind of like somewhat dignified and like cool. But now he was seeing me like sweating, wearing these fucking big dorky rubber gloves, carrying these fucking dishes or like parts of the grill or whatever, and just like looking all disheveled and like crappy. And the contrast, he was like, oh my God. And he was judging me. He was like, being like, oh my God, like you look like a piece of shit. Like, this is who you really are type thing. And I was just tried to play it off. Like I tried to play it cool. I was just like, oh, hey, mate. And then just like went about my business and tried to like hide back in the kitchen in like the back of house. And I was just like so fucking humiliated and embarrassed. And like, I really didn't like how he did it as well. Like, okay, if you're surprised and shocked, fine. But he was like, yeah, he was really judgy. Like, he seemed really judgy. And like, one of my biggest fears is like being judged and stuff. I know that's stupid, but it is. And I just felt so bad. And I'm pretty sure that's the last time I saw him or the other guy or like did anything with them. I think I just like was really embarrassed and I didn't like contact them again or anything. And I think it also like totally like destroyed his like idea of me. So yeah, my life was shitty. Like for a long time I was staying with my folks. And I think one of my sisters might have been living with us too. I had crappy jobs, you know, just like washing dishes and fucking mopping floors and stuff. I tried to do this awareness shit and this meditation teacher shit, but I was all conflicted about it because like my own calm and presence and shit, it was breaking down. was having problems with junk food, having problems with like porn and stuff. Not that that's really a problem, but it's not really who you want to be for like telling people about detachment and control. um, Problems with like behavior, just like, just randomly driving around instead of doing work. And just problems with being like a retarded piece of shit, like, you know, getting frustrated again, getting angry again, getting angry at traffic again. All the good effects of like all the practice and I'd done and the good environments I'd been in was all kind of all kind of wearing off and changing, and it wasn't good. So I'll tell you, yeah, and I had some more other problems that I'll hopefully tell you about in the future as well. But yeah, so there's a bit more to say about that, like different parts of that period of life, but this is one like part of it, one aspect of it that went on. Um, and yeah, so I would talk to the guy who ran the little meditation studio. I'd talk to him and kind of confide in him. It was this he was actually a gay guy, a bald gay guy in like his 30s. He was very kind of like calm and like quietly spoken, but he was a nice guy and I kind of confided in him a bit and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore, like I don't know if my practice is like up to the level it should be if I'm teaching this and stuff." And he kept being like, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay. You still got something to teach and stuff. You still got something valuable to say." And I kept being like, yeah, trying to find ways to kind of like rationalize like feeling okay about continuing. But yeah, eventually I just stopped. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't think I am the person that I hoped I would be to be teaching like meditation and being all aware and detached and stuff. Like, it feels kind of phony. Like, my life doesn't really reflect the what I'm teaching and like the effects of it and stuff. Like, I can't really claim the efficacy of something that like it's not even really working for me anymore, and I'm not even really like that good at it. Like, how can I really teach this and stuff? Like, does it even really work? Like, is it even a real thing? Like, it was very confusing, and I just eventually said, yeah, like I can't actually like do this anymore. So I quit that too. Another big fucking waste of time. However long I was doing it for. Can't remember how long I was doing it for, but yeah, I'm really not sure. Maybe a year or a year and a half, or I can't really remember. But it was a big fucking waste of time and another big chunk of time where I did all this work and then nothing came of it. And I was left with fucking nothing to show for any of my time or efforts. And I realized I didn't even really have the one good thing that I thought I had out of this whole time, like I thought that's what, like, if there was something valuable that I'd developed or taken from all these like fucking struggles and traumas and shitty years, it was that I learned this awareness shit and I become all calm and peaceful and wise and some shit. But if I really looked at it honestly, which I wanted to do, even though I went through a bit of denial, I had to admit that I didn't really even have that either. And to be honest, I think that's where like some of the delays in stopping and some of the denial came from, was that if I admitted that I didn't even have this kind of presence awareness thing, I kind of had to admit that all those years were wasted and something good didn't really come out of it. Like, it was just a whole bunch of suffering, a whole bunch of wasted years, and nothing good came out of it. Like, the kind of narrative I was trying to spin about how I went through all these struggles, but then I learned this really valuable thing that I now had to pass on to others. I think it was kind of like I was kind of diving for that. I was kind of trying to grasp onto that to try to convince myself that the whole thing wasn't just a lot of pain and suffering and a big waste of time. But I pretty much had to eventually admit, no, nothing amazing came of this. No big transformation came of this. Like, nothing awesome came from all those struggles. It just sucked. it was just a big waste of years and years of your life, and it just fucking sucked ass balls. And that's just all there is to it. And I basically just had to admit that to myself, stop trying to be a fucking meditation teacher when I was getting angry at the traffic and eating chocolate and jacking off. And yeah, admit that the whole thing wasn't really what I was trying to say it was or what I hoped it would be. So I do still value, like, all the same stuff of, like, being present to the moment and, like, non-duality and self-inquiry and meditation. Um, but I don't claim to be good at it at all anymore, and I'm really not anymore. And ironically, when I stopped that stuff, like that teaching stuff, and just like got sidetracked and interested in other things, my whole practice of it got even worse, which is kind of stupid and ironic as well. Yeah, I still really like value that stuff and kind of like believe in it or endorse it or whatever. But yeah, I'll never say, like, that I'm super good at it again, and set myself up as any kind of serious, like, teacher who's achieved anything or anything like that. And some of my perspectives on it have changed somewhat since those times, and I'll talk about that another time because that's a totally different topic. So yeah, that's a chunk of time, but that's one aspect of what went on during that chunk of time. And then there's other stuff I'll tell you about, the different jobs I had and um other stuff that happened and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the next chapter of my crappy story. Um yeah, it just gets kind of more embarrassing and pathetic as, like, the story goes on. And yeah, uh next time I'll just keep telling you what happened next. So that's about it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you learned something or got something out of it. Who knows? Um, Thanks heaps for listening, as always. I appreciate it a lot. And yeah, I'll talk to you again next time.